All right, here we go. Okay. Daenerys, right? Yeah, sixth installment in this novel. Yeah. And with this chapter, we wrap up the whole Daenerys plot in book three, Storm of Swords, and also the novella known as the Path of the Dragon, because these Dany chapters from book three were initially pre-released as a sample chapter type thing, if you will, as a separate novella before A Storm of Swords was published. They first appeared on Asimov's science fiction December 2000 issue. Nor was this the first release of its kind, because the Dany chapters from book one had already been released separately as a preview, released with the title Blood of the Dragon, again in Asimov's science fiction way back in July 1996. Now, it's a bit unclear whether these six chapters appeared in the novella in the exact same format, word for word, as we see them here on A Storm of Swords, because unfortunately I am not one of those proud owners of a copy of either of those two publications, so I don't have much to go on. But I did come across a Reddit post by a Jen Snow, dated 2016, which informs us that, and I quote, although the Westeros wiki says that the Path of the Dragon includes all of Dany's chapters in A Storm of Swords, this isn't true. Path of the Dragon includes only Dany's first three chapters in A Storm of Swords. The novella ends with her sack of Astapor. Anyone who can shed some light on this is welcome to let me know. Anyway, welcome, welcome, dear listener, to the ramblings of an insane person online commenting on George R. Martin's Storm of Ice and Fire, Book 3, A Storm of Swords. A Storm of Ice and Fire. Is that what I said? As a Song of Ice and Fire. All right. Okay. I told you they're incoherent ramblings, and this is where I deliver. Last time we saw Dany. The last time we saw Dany was 14 chapters ago. Team Daenerys having arrived at the walls of Meereen, laying siege to the city. Except that Meereen is impenetrable. I can't speak today. And it's not like there's a great choice of restaurant complexes outside the walls, so Dany's army is likely to starve before long, not to mention all the fans community, who has been the groupies who have been following Daenerys all the way here, and they're not very skilled in survivalism out there in the wilderness. The Meereenese keep taunting Dany and company, to the point of sending out their champion. The idea being that this whole thing can be settled with a duel with the fiercest from Dany's rank and file and a champion from Meereen. But Strong Belwas, answers the call and dispatches this so-called champ between meals, literally between main courses. So now we're back to square one. And it's at this point that the new commander of the Sellsword Company, the Second Sons, is on Dany's side. Brown Ben Plum is his name, and he offers the smelliest idea. Because the way he once managed to escape Meereen years before, he recalls, nor is he likely to forget, was, Shawshank Redemption style. So he figures, if that's the way out through the sewers, why shouldn't it be a way in? This is what it says. Brown Ben Plum says, great brick sewers empty into the Skahazadan River. Even the river sounds ominous. So sewers, Blackwater's sewers empty into this river, carrying the city's wastes. They might be a way in for a few. There are also iron grates, though some have rusted through, else I would have drowned in shit. Once inside, it is a long, foul climb in pitch dark through a maze of brick where a man could lose himself forever. What a prospect. The filth is never lower than waist high and can rise over your head from the stains I saw on the walls. There's things down there too, biggest rats you ever saw, and worse things. Nasty. Yeah, there you have it, dear listener. I hope you weren't snacking while I was reading that. But by the way, do you think that Brown Ben Plum used to be called simply Ben Plum, before his ordeal in the sewers? I don't know. It's never specified in the text. He was henceforth known as Brown Ben Plum. Anyway, we take a break from strategizing, and an attempt on Danny's life leads to a Scooby-Doo type reveal. Actually, not one, not two, but 3 Scooby-Doo reveals. What happens is this. Basically, a mysterious attacker from the crowd of refugees. Danny is strolling through the camp followers' camp. I forgot to mention that. The camp followers have their own camp, and there's this mysterious attacker who tries to whack Daenerys. But Arstan, a.k.a. Whitebeard, a.k.a. Barristan Selmy, dispatches him with nothing but a wooden staff. And this is the day both Whitebeard and Strong Belwas prove that they are worth every penny. But let's see who this mysterious attacker really is. First reveal, and it's none other than Miro, the Titan's bastard. The former and now deposed commander of the Second Sons, who clearly had a grudge against Danny. Go figure. But it's the manner and the ease with which Arstan, a seemingly frail senior citizen, overpowered Miro that raises Jorah Mormont's suspicions. Because when he hears the story, Jorah, he's all like, wait a minute, you kicked the guy's ass with nothing but your walking cane? Oh, I know who you are, he goes, Khaleesi. Before you kneels, this is verbatim, I got it here on the page. Before you kneels Sir Barristan Selmy, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, who betrayed your house to serve the usurper Robert Baratheon. So that's your second reveal. And for the third reveal, it's now Whitebeard's turn to go, I've got some news of my own, While I was sitting at the small council, I must have heard like 100 reports on everything you did, Danny, down to your favorite ice cream, because of a spy in your rank and file, and all evidence point to this man, dun dun dun, and that man being Jorah Mormont, with Danny who can't believe her ears, Oh no, it's impossible. Say it isn't so, Joe. Say it isn't so, goes Danny, quoting a song from Murray Head. And then she's like, no, what am I talking about? I'm mad at you, actually. Both of you, because you lied to me, and here I am, racking my brains, trying to figure out a way to conquer the city while surrounded by liars. Okay, well, I don't know if Danny actually sounds like that, but there you go. And anyway, this is where she has the idea, on whom to send for the sewers mission. And Whitebeard will forever known as Brownbeard. Will be forever known as Brownbeard, and Jorah, the bear covered in shit. I don't know. Okay, temporary nicknames, but there you go. So up through the sewers with you, chop chop, and off they go. And this is where we catch up with Danny again. The aftermath at the beginning of this chapter, Danny VI. So there she is, Daenerys chilling in the garden on the apex of the Great Pyramid, having breakfast and enjoying a terrific view of the whole city from here, the highest point in Meereen. And she's pondering, theological matters, as you do, like the god worshipped by her teenage scribe Missandei, the Lord of Harmony. I like that. Who apparently sits surrounded by butterfly women, his own creation, butterflies everywhere. Sounds like she's thinking of fairies to me. Or maybe like, I don't know why that reminds me of one of those books by, what was his name? The Satanic Verses. There was a chapter filled with butterflies. I forgot the name of the author. Never mind. It's completely irrelevant here. All right. Anyway, but yeah, fairies. Yeah, white sounds like the ideal divinity. By the way, for a peaceful population of vegetarians, the folk of Nath, the Isle of Nath, where Missandei is from. Then she goes over the various creeds, faiths, religions. There's the faith of the seven, in the seven kingdoms, although in similarity number 347 at least by now, similarity between the faith of the seven and Catholicism. Check this out. Danny remembers hearing that really all those seven gods really are essentially just aspects of one god. Confusingly, she remembers that from Viserys, which is kind of funny when you think about it. I mean, Viserys taking charge of Daenerys' spiritual upbringing, giving her Sunday school classes. Although, even there, in that context, I still imagine him like delivering those lessons in his usual obnoxious tone, like, yeah, duh, it's only one God. Don't you know anything, you stupid girl? Then she ponders about the Roholler faith. Naturally, she would be familiar with that, having lived on the continent ASOS or ISO. But she doesn't entertain any thoughts on the faith of the old gods of the north of Westeros. I don't think Jorah ever tried to tell her about that. Not a great pickup line, pickup conversation. And we know that Jorah, and because we know what Jorah is after every time he speaks to Daenerys, so no, he wouldn't have started a conversation with Khaleesi. There are ancient gods in the north where I am from. Do you want to hear about them? No. Anyway. Sorry, the point being, Dany starts realizing how lonely it is at the top, literally at the top, in this case, top of a pyramid, no less, and wonders if gods also feel lonely. That's real humble, like a proper Targaryen. So there she is, pondering all that stuff while munching on duck eggs and dog sausage, as you do, and half a cup of sweetened wine mixed with the juice of a lime. Interesting. So we get the whole conquest of Meereen in a flashback, while Dany is being dressed by her maids, getting ready for a council meeting. She recalls how she won the city with the help of sewer rats and a wooden cock. So always these strange premises that will get unpacked later. But the latter, this wooden cock, is basically a battering ram, which the sellsword made from the mast of one of her ships and gave it an imaginative penis nickname. And Captain Groleo is still unhappy about it. Not about the nickname that they gave his mast, but about the fact that one of the ships had to be sacrificed to make not only the battering ram, but also mantlets, turtles, catapults, ladders, because he's thinking, it's coming out of my paycheck now. And when and if he'll meet Magister Illyrio again, he'll have to answer for that. Because he is the legitimate proprietor of those ships. Not to mention the cargo. Actually, did they get the cargo back from Astapor? Because it was used as bait, I remember, but after the massacre, Dragonfire and Brimstone and all, after making a barbecue out of Krasnizmonaklos, I didn't remember the name by heart, to look it up, I see no reason why they shouldn't have hauled the cargo back to the ships once it had served its purpose. Anyway, so the city was taken, all the so-called great masters rounded up in the night, not looking so great at this point, and she remembers demanding 163 of their leaders be handed to her so she could have them nailed on planks of wood. Macabre, but, retribution for what the great masters had done to 163 slaves back in the previous chapter. I'm thinking those 163 wooden planks also must have come from Grolio's ship. How large was this ship? Anyway, yeah, even after, you would think, right, that nailing 163 people on planks of wood would cheer you up, right? But no, that still doesn't sit right with Daenerys. No matter how many times she tells herself, I did it for the children. I did it for the children. Yeah, whatever, Danny. By the way, all that stuff happened off screen, yeah? All of that, I told you, this is one giant flashback. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if there was such a book, a collection of all the off-screen events from the Song of Ice and Fire? Like one of them, off the top of my head, and a proper POV novel. One of them would feature Barristan Selmy fleeing Westeros. Actually, no, I see it more like Night of the Seven Kingdoms kind of thing. It could be a novella. Barristan Selmy fleeing Westeros, arriving at Pentos, knocking on Magister Illyrio's door, having to prove his worth, his salt, and not just a senior citizen with a walking cane looking for a paycheck. Only to be told, all right, I'll tell you what, you go see to Danny's safety, but at one condition: take strong Belwas with you. Magister Illyrio being like a mother. All right, go to the party, but only if you take your little sister with you. Barristan Selmy going, oh, Mom, that's not fair. Anyway, no, maybe not written in that style, but written with George R. Martin's skill and style. Yeah, I would read that book. Also, I don't know about you, but this has been said over and over again in the fandom, but I would gladly read a detailed novel. This would be a great POV novel. Every chapter being a different POV. Set in the Baratheon Rebellion. Up to and including the Greyjoy Rebellion. That would be, interesting. Anyway, so Daenerys goes down to the council room, just one floor below, and sits on a regular ebony bench, as opposed to the tacky throne that used to be in that room, of carved and gilded wood in the shape of a savage harpy, which she had destroyed. And all harpy symbols had to be removed under this new management, including the statue of the harpy that used to be on top of the Great Pyramid. I don't know why, I have a kind of like a vision of the footage from Nuremberg trials, where all swastikas were blown off the top of the buildings. I don't know, I just had this recollection. I wonder if that's the Sibylle which George R. R. Martin had in mind. And anyway, so she goes down to the council, and here they are, the merry men, members of Dany's council, her Dothraki blood riders, Daario. That's how I'll pronounce it. Daario. It's got two A's, so and an apostrophe in the middle. So why wouldn't it be Arabic? Ain, Daario. Ben Plum, brown Ben Plum, grey worm. Everyone's got a collar. Daario's got a blue beard, if I'm not mistaken. And notice that George waits before mentioning Barristan Selmy and Jorah Mormont. He just mentions these three, but he keeps us on pins and needles. What of them? Anyway, so meanwhile, the city has gone quiet again, and that might have something to do with Daenerys decreeing that murderers are to be hanged, that looters are to lose a hand, and rapers are to lose their manhood. Yeah, that kind of restored law and order. Dun, dun. You know the Law and Order? Dun, dun. No, I don't do a very good sound effect. Now, I might be wrong, but this is a thought that just occurred to me. But the sequence of this rough justice administered in the streets, murderers to be hanged, looters to have a hand chopped off, and rapers to lose their manhood, this sequence was... Sorry. Oh dear. Oh dear, something went through the wrong pipe just thinking about this stuff. I think that murderers to be hanged, looters to have a hand chopped off, and rapists to lose their manhood, I think it was filmed in the exact same order, if memory serves, in a cutaway scene from in the HBO TV series House of the Dragon. I forgot what episode, but off the top of my head, but it was season 1 for sure. It was a cutaway scene where they showed Daemon Targaryen as commander of the City Watch, the Gold Cloaks, and they showed those exact same 3 punishments meted out in that precise order, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on it, but that's what I seem to recall. Be it as it may, that kind of policy is bound to result in... we knew that it was bound to result in bloodbath in the streets. So first order of the day, dispose of all the dead bodies from the streets, particularly the great masters, the great dead masters, because frankly, their bodies are becoming a bit of a nuisance, really. So Missandei's advice is to boil their bones and return them to their families, as a gesture. What a messy job that must be. How do you identify all those, label them? Or you know what? I don't even want to know. Anyway, more pressing matters. A galley from Karth has arrived, and someone on board would like an audience with the new ruler of Meereen, Dany. Turns out it's this dude. He's from Astapor, all right. Home of Dany's army, not to mention adoptive home of Missandei, and it's this dude called Gael. I'll call him. And he goes, hi, hello. Name's Gael. Huge fan. Yeah, you'll be pleased to know that we in Astapor... This is Gael talking. You'll be pleased to know that we in Astapor are also under a new management. Yeah. You know those three guys you appointed shortly before you left? The healer, the scholar, the priest... Yeah, we didn't really like them, so we hacked their heads off with a meat cleaver and put a smashing bloke named Cleon or Cleos at his place. I think it's Cleon. Wait. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we put him in charge. Is it's a smashing bloke. Yeah, but there was a reason. We didn't just act on impulse. Apparently those 3 guys were plotting to restore the old regime, the ancien regime, so to speak. So everybody's cool now. We've got Cleon, and he's a top-notch guy. Wait a minute. This is Missandei now, huh? She goes, wait a minute. She's heard that name before. Wait. Isn't that Cleon the Butcher? Why, the one and only. Ah, well, that explains the meat cleaver. But then he wants to know what this Cleon guy wants from her. Why would he send an envoy? And when it's basically this. How about, Gael is speaking up again, how about joining forces and kick some Yunkai's ass, huh? Yunkish ass, however it's Yunkish. Inhabitants from Yunkai, inhabitants of Yunkai are called Yunkish. Because true, Daenerys did promise to leave Yunkai alone once they release their slaves, but hey, these Yunkish masters can't be trusted. In fact, they're probably plotting as we speak to regroup and attack Marine now. Yeah. In fact, let me read you the passage, because all this is planting the seeds for future plot threads and foreshadowing, whatever. Foreshadowing, as you youngsters say. Now, levies. This is verbatim. New levies have been raised, and the Yunkish can be seen drilling outside the city walls. Warships are being built. Envoys have been sent to Neuris and Volantis in the west to make alliances and hire sellswords. They have even dispatched riders to Vaes Dothrak to bring a Halasar down upon you. Great Cleon bid me tell you not to be afraid. Astapor remembers. Astapor will not forsake you. To prove his faith, Great Cleon offers to seal your alliance with a marriage. Wow, that's a lot to take in, for a Tuesday. So and Missandei, she's really got an amazing IQ, this Missandei, because she knows how to ask the right questions politely, but effectively, to trap people in their own lies, contradictions. Because she goes, okay, did Cleon's first wife give him sons? Gotcha. but Grael, he doesn't skip a beat. He just goes, yeah. Well, he does already have 3 daughters, from his first wife, But now that he's been made king, he's married a few more gals. You already can see that he's gone power mad. He's married a few more gals, knocked them all up, if you please. So there you go. But listen, if the mother of dragons is into this whole monogamy thing, that's okay. Cleon is also cool with that, And keep going back to that, he keeps going back to that, the famous Daenerys curse. Like, oh dear, whenever I try to put things right, they just keep screwing themselves up the other way. That's pretty much something like that. Anyway, it happens a lot with whatever Daenerys does. There are always consequences, and not, to be sure, not all of them pleasant. It's George R. R. Martin's theme of how things have unpredictable ripple effects. Like, who was it who said, I believe it was so-and-so who once said, when asked, if he thought the French Revolution was a good thing, he said, too soon to tell. Was there someone who famously said that? And this was like centuries after. It might have been Mao Zedong, but I might be wrong. And also, Daenerys is thinking, well, if Yunkai really is planning to attack, all of Dany's followers will want to join her when she finally heads west. If she ever heads west. Anyway, the training of the Unsullied continues, except now it's highborn boys who have been abducted, and this is what's going on in Astapor. The training of Unsullied continues, but now it's highborn boys who have been abducted and are being trained. Sort of a payback from the Butcher King, or King Cleaver. Oh, Cleon, Cleaver. The captains of this Carthene ship calls him, King Cleaver. Clever. Huh. And as if to dry one more nail on the coffin, Dario even points out that there's a whole bunch of people right there in Marine who wouldn't mind jumping aboard that ship. The Indigo Star, it's called. They jump aboard that ship back to Astapor, is it? Yeah, and sell themselves as slaves. How about that? And Missandei, I told you she's clever. She immediately seizes on a financial opportunity, because back in Astapor, the city took 1/10 of the price every time a person was bought and sold. So then he goes, all right then, let's roll with the punches, I suppose, and keep receipts, all right? So yeah, that's right. Danny wants to see receipts, especially because it's Dario's Stormcrows who offer. It's the Stormcrows, Darius sellswords, who offer to enforce that tax, the tax every time money exchange hands in selling and buying a person. So it's not like the Second Sons are much better, but better keep an eye on whoever handles all that cash, so to speak. But anyway, no more putting off what must be done, Danny is thinking, because now it's time to face the music and dance, face the knights. Barristan Selmy and Jorah Mormont, both guilty of something. Well, to be honest, the guilt of Selmy isn't exactly on a par, on the same footing as Mormont's. I mean, all right, Barristan Selmy has been pretending to be this frail old man, senior citizen with massive gaps on his resume for some reason. So he lied, all right, he concealed his identity, but his ultimate motivation was to serve Daenerys as a queen's guard. All he did, really, was sitting on the fence for nearly 7 chapters because he first wanted to make sure that Dany didn't turn out to be cuckoo like her dad. But that's it, as we will later find out. Okay, so maybe we should also add that he did serve King Bob for 15 years, I suppose. Yeah, that also is a bit. Come on, Barry. And he only left after they decided to decommission you, so to speak, to force you into retirement. All right, yeah. There are a few spots, a few stains, shall we say, on Barristan's behavior. But Jorah, Jorah, on the other hand, has been spilling the beans to, well, it's complicated. The whole bizarre alliance of Varys, Mopatis, and what they are really after, and whether their interests really coincide. Okay, let's just say Jorah has been spilling the beans to people connected to the royal family, some members of the royal family anyway, in King's Landing, unsavory characters who want her dead, basically. And what kind of beans did he spill? Well, pretty much the whole 3-bean salad, really. Dany's whereabouts, her intentions, the size of her entourage, when she got pregnant, and Jorah keep protesting, like, yeah, I know, okay, so yeah, I did reveal all that stuff, but listen, yeah, it was only before I fell in love with you, Khaleesi. After that, I stopped. So I'm all right, no? And Jorah, you don't have a strong case, I dare say. And his strong bell was, as I said, it's now time to face the knights. So it is a strong bell was who escorts the 2 knights before Daenerys, manhandling them quite roughly, Centurion. Award yourself 5 points if you caught that reference. Although it wasn't a very good impression of Michael Palin. But again, so he manhandles them quite roughly, which in Jorah's case, I sort of get it, really, because, I mean, it's not like Jorah and Belwas are strong, are the best of pals. But really, Barristan, I mean, you think that the two, they're going as far back as they do, you think they would have established a rapport, that strong Belwas would say to Barristan, hey, sorry, nothing personal, all right? Just, let's play along. Unless, do you think that Belwas is also pissed off for having been told by Selmy to call him Arstan or Whitebeard? That Belwas is all mad, and maybe they have already had a little chat along the lines of, you lied to me, man. You deceived me. I trusted you, with Barristan going, no, come on, don't be like that. I don't want to see you upset. It upsets me. Okay, no, perhaps not. But perhaps the dialogue didn't actually unfold along those lines. But yeah, it's true. I mean, it's true. Strombel was part of the shall we say victims of this deceit, this incognito. Anyway, never mind. Dany puts her mad face on. She's all like, "Don't you say a bloody word until I tell you you can speak, Jorah." I think she's addressing Jorah here, and one at a time. First of all, now she's addressing both of them. And maybe raise your hand first, okay? You know what? As a Targaryen, I should hang you both, but you did help in taking this city. Yeah, because that's what they did. Those two plus Belwas and another 20 brave fools, as they are called here. I imagine some unsullied. They went through the sewers, fighting rats, practically swimming in excrements, and Belwas had his own way of dealing with rats, because he basically grabbed them and bit them. Because of course, really, the hygienic standards on that guy, honestly. Oh, and also, remember the Brown Ben Plum said, wait a minute, thank God for bookmarks. Talking about these sewer rats, he said, I remember when I said, there's things down there too, biggest rats you ever saw, and worse things, nasty. Yeah, well, so worse things, that intrigued us, huh? So what could those things be? And here George tells us, and I think he's just having a laugh here, because, yeah, it's like he's telling us there's sewers, alligators here beneath Marine. Did you know that? Yeah. Didn't you know? Yeah. It's not just an urban legend. No, or maybe a nod to Thomas Pynchon, V. Was it V? Yeah. Now, true story. Pale alligators. Yeah, it's a classic. So yeah, Jorah gets a bit smug here, which he's really not playing his cards well. He's not. He goes like, well, we did take the city, actually. We did take the city. We sewer rats. That was quite the smelly enterprise, I'll have you know. Silence! This is I've decided that Daenerys speaks with this voice. I said raise your hand, right? I said raise your hand if you want to speak. Barristan Selmy. So you came on a false identity because you first wanted to know what exactly? And Selmy just has to say it at this point. Yeah, well, I wanted to make sure you didn't turn up like your dad. What, like a positive, approachable, warm, fun to be around guy? Yeah, well, no, Your Grace, not exactly. King Aerys was a lot of things, but none of those you just listed. All right, seriously, we've been tiptoeing on this issue long enough. You do know that your father, King Aerys, was called the Mad King, right? I mean, you must have wondered where that came from. But that's one of those facts that Dany seems to refuse to accept, the whole adage. Every time a Targaryen is born, the gods toss a coin. Heads, wise. Tails, barking mad. Yeah, which one do you favor? My cat has decided to express his opinion on the matter. Be it as it may, Selmy admits he has concluded that Daenerys doesn't have any screw loose, not that he can see for now anyway, so he swears he will serve the true-born heir of Westeros, his own words, in whatever capacity she will have him, Queen's Guard or even Squire, Jester if need be, or even Cook. These are Dany's suggestions, but Barristan doesn't find any of those positions to be beneath him. He just goes, yeah, well, hell, Cook. Why, I can make a mean roast duck, if you'll pardon me, with baked apples. He says, greasy with charred skin and bloody bones. You see, my secret is I cook them with huge amounts of... Yeah, all right, Barry. Kneel, Sir Barristan. I will swear you in now. Is this how it's done? And it's straight to orientation with you. Da-da-da. So she swears him in. The formula... That doesn't matter. It's a formality. This is she swears him to her service and then moves on to Jorah Mormont. Now this is a tricky one. All right, you. What do you have to say for yourself? She goes. And this is where, as I said, Jorah keeps playing his cards all wrong. Instead of begging for forgiveness, he just goes through all the people he said Daenerys shouldn't trust. Including Barristan. I did warn you against all those people, including this guy here, which is so the wrong thing to say, because that's precisely one of those annoying things annoying character traits that Dany found she couldn't stand when she could finally put her finger on it, driving a wedge between her and basically any man in her entourage. That's what Jorah Mormont seemed to say. Any man should not be trusted. I'm the only man you can trust. And at some point when she realized, hang on, yeah, there's a pattern there. She keeps telling me that with regards to any single man at court, and then she went all mad, like, who does he think he is, Anyway, so the questioning progresses, and Mormont keeps weakening his own case. Like, she goes, okay, did you take gold from the spider? Yeah, well, a bit, yeah. How does she know Varys? Because she refers to Varys. How does she know about Varys again? I don't seem to remember if Varys came up in conversations. And then, not to mention the nickname, the Spider. I don't know if I raised the question in the previous chapter, the one with the Scooby-Doo style unmasking, but both Barristan and Jorah talk about Varys, the Spider, like taking it for granted that Daenerys knows who this Varys affectionately referred to as the Spider, who he actually is. And honestly, right now I don't remember where we are informed that Dany knows of these people at court. Anyway, I'll look that up. Where was I? Oh, yes. So did you take gold from the Spider? Yeah, well, a bit. Yeah. To inform on me? Yes, but then I stopped. I kicked the habit. I'm a reformed man now. I'm a changed man. And when did you stop? Right after Karth. Holy crap. Anyway, what comes out next? Because she thought, he had been a so-called reformed man way before they even reached Karth. But what comes out next is that all the way back in Book 1, A Game of Thrones, Barristan Selmy witnessed a small council, where it came out that Dany was with child and that the information had come from Jorah Mormont. The whole debate that had Eddard and Robert at each other's throat, because Robert insisted on having Daenerys whacked now that she was pregnant to a potential heir to the throne. And Ned was all like, no, not on my watch. I tender my resignations. You can keep your silly hand pin. I'll unpin it and you can put it on whoever you want. And when King Bob, Robert Baratheon, kept explaining, he kept Bob-splaining his plan to have Daenerys, sleep with the fishes, there was even talk that Jorah himself might do the deed in exchange for a royal pardon. And you remember that George gave us a misdirection there because he had Jorah save Dany from that poisoned wine so we readers wouldn't suspect that the informer was him. Oh, George. But here's the important thing, because Varys did want Daenerys whacked. Well, no, sorry, watched. No, whacked. See, getting my terminology wrong. Varys did want some of his many rats, his informers, children, as we'll find out. But not all children, lots of informers, really. But, Varys did want his personal rats to keep an eye on Daenerys, but he didn't want Daenerys to be harmed, because Dany was part of his convoluted plans. And as Jorah tells us here, there was a letter from Varys warning Jorah that there would be attempts to kill Daenerys, so better keep an eye on her, And the reason Varys was aware of hitmen after her is simply because he sent this hitman himself under orders from the king. Or am I getting my facts wrong? You let me know. That's the way it looks to me. It's never really spelled out, but I think that's how things went down. On the one hand, he obeyed his orders, and on the other, he said, guys, watch out. He was betting on both horses, so to speak. And at this point, Dany's mind is made up. She can't forgive him in spite of all his lamentations. He keeps reciting all the names all the times he was useful to her, all the names of people that he said shouldn't be trusted, and all the times he fought for her, killed for her, risked his life for her, the whole shebang. But where he really screws up is where he adds that he's also loved her. I loved you, Daenerys. Oh, Jorah, come on, leave that out, mate. And this is where some of those prophecies from those wacky guys, the Undyne from Clash of Kings, begin to make a bit of sense. Because one of the things that were prophesied to her was, 3 treasons you will know. 3 treasons you will know, Daenerys. Once for blood, and once for gold, and once for love. So there. Riddle me that. Okay, I get it that the prophecy doesn't literally map onto what actually happened here, because, it's not like Jorah betrayed Daenerys out of love. In fact, he betrayed her in spite of love, and then eventually stopped betraying her precisely out of love. You see, it's not quite the same thing, is it? But the Undying, they like twisting their words and making their prophecies sound a bit poetic, enigmatic. Oh, classic Undying, isn't it? Anyway, so Jorah is cooked at this point. Here's what Daenerys says next. You have until dawn to collect your things and leave the city. If you're found in Meereen past break of day, I will have strong Belwas twist your head off. There. And he would do it, Belwas. Yeah, he would do it. I can totally picture him going, yeah, sorry, mate, nothing personal, yeah? Snap. Total. For now, all Belwas does is take him away, while Dany feels all messed up. It wasn't easy, super emotional, in fact. So Daario tries to cheer her up, or maybe talk her out of letting Jorah leave. He just goes, you do have a good heart, huh, my queen. But that guy is treacherous. Just say the word and chop chop. I'll bring you his head. Oh, Daario, I know you're just trying to cheer me up. But no. Okay, I think this is probably a good time to inform you that all these dialogues are slightly paraphrased, okay? Anyways, Danny's all like, no, nah, mate, nah, drop it. He's all right. He's all right. Just let him go. Backpacking across Europe, and that should clear his head. But she's really emotional right now, trembling like a leaf. So she slips into something more comfortable. Bagging woolen breeches, a loose felted tunic, a painted Dothraki vest, that sort of thing. Martin's, garment porn. Much has been said about Martin's food porn, but not enough about garment porn, I think. So yeah, loose baggy woolen breeches, loose felted tunic, a painted Dothraki vest, and she wants nothing like, yeah, nothing more than chatting with the gals, over herbal tea, sharing and discussing feelings, emotions, and whatnot. Or maybe you read a trashy book where all the heroes are described as tall and handsome, and you can tell the traitors by their shifty eyes. Look, I'm not making this up. It's all on the page. Go and check it if you don't believe me. She wants to do all sorts of girly things. Mind you, she is 14. Okay. But anyway, all these things are no use. When you try and read a page and you realize that your eyes keep just reading the same sentence over and over again because thoughts get in the way. It's no use. She can't help thinking about Jorah the whole time. Was it a good idea to send him away? What if I keep him close instead? Like Vito Corleone. Keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. Or maybe just kill him, yeah, whack him. Of course, if trying to get back to reading that pulpy book doesn't exactly help, considering that it was given to her by Jorah Mormont himself, as a wedding gift way back in book 1. So she decides to stare up in the sky, stare up at the sky, I suppose, contemplating the dragons. Oh my, they grow so fast, don't they? She looks at them, flapping around. I don't know if that's the sound they make. But she's interrupted by Barristan Selmy. Oh, oi, you still here? What do you want? Well, your grace, you know how it is. Now that we're cool, you and I, I thought it might be a good time to talk about your late dad, because you seem to have vague notions of him, of him being this kind and generous and warm guy. Okay, so no, was I wrong? This is Daddy now. Was he like batshit crazy? Yes and no. He started off like a regular dude, with a few bouts of insanity here and there, kind of like an exception to the rule. But as the years progressed, how can I put it? The exception sort of became the rule. And then he started casually burning people in their own armors and strangling, people who just came over to demand to know what was going on. Just ask whoever remaining Stark is out there. But it's at this point that Dany realizes that maybe she doesn't like where this conversation is going. So yeah, maybe some other time, Sir Selmy, you'll brief me some other time, yeah? Huh? What do you think, Barry? Which, I don't think I'm giving away any huge spoiler, but any reader who has made it this far must have learned the pattern. That whenever a character says, I'll tell you about it the next chance I get, it always sounds a bit like, Ned Stark telling Jon Snow, next time I see you, I'll tell you all about your mother, yeah? I'm not saying, okay, but moving on. So she just kisses Selmy on the cheek. She's already forgiven him. She's all like, oh, there, you adorable, smelly old man. And but later that night, she's troubled. That's right. And this chapter might as well be titled All of Dany's Men, because Jorah has been jettisoned out of her life. Barristan Selmy has been welcomed into it with reservations. But the one man she would really welcome into her life right now is Daario. Yeah. Oh my, those dreamy purple eyes. That's all she thinks about. She has a bit of a cuddly time with the maidservant, Eerie, but it just isn't the same. Which is why Dany decides to take a midnight stroll around the pyramid, look down at the city, and this is where we hit an iceberg. my dear listener, because fan theories, Lemongate, the page full of lies, George R. R. Martin, threefold revelation. Oh my, where do I begin? Okay, so, because this is what happens. Okay, let me backtrack a bit. Missandei intercepts Daenerys and asks her why she's staring at the city down below, at which point Dany just goes, man, just looking for a house with a red door, which may well be a reference to a Jimi Hendrix song, come to think of it. But anyway, so, really, it's more for us readers' benefit that she says that, not for Missandei, because she doesn't even explain a thing to her. We, however, we readers, know that she is referring to a certain house in Bravos, where she supposedly spent the first few years of her life. 4, 5, we don't... And it's all described in the 3rd page of Daenerys 1 in Book 1, Game of Thrones. And it's all a big lie. A big fat lie. And if we decide to see the threefold revelation technique everywhere, that writing device by which George R. R. Martin implants subliminal ideas in the reader's mind before spelling them out clearly. There are 3 steps to it. The very first step being subliminal ideas by the very cunning use of words as writers do. Well, I mean, if this is what's going on here, well, what do you know? Right after the Red Door mention, Daenerys officially verbatim utters the following sentence: "Never lie to me, Missandei, never betray me." So the word lie appears right after the Red Door is mentioned. Ha! If no one else has told you that, you heard it here first. So what are we looking at? Could this be a wink-wink, kind of way of George R. R. Martin to say, yeah, that house with the red door, big fat lie too. And dear listener, if you are a first-time reader and all these concepts, page full of lies, Lemongate, and so on, I'm not going to go through the entire iceberg. That would be beyond the scope of these commentaries, but I can briefly skim through over what other scholars better equipped than me have said, such as Jacob Preston, for one. He has made videos about it. Not to the page of lies, Daenerys' page of lies, and not to mention a certain user, Mark G171. That's Mark with a K followed by G for golf, 171. That's all one word. And he wrote, or she wrote, no less than an essay on a forum titled thelasthearth.net. The essay itself being titled Fake Dany. Okay, so anyway, the narrative Dany remembers on page 3 of Daenerys 1 of Game of Thrones is this: she was born on Dragonstone during a catastrophic storm, so catastrophic that it smashed the Targaryen fleet 9 months after, and she was born 9 months after her father Aerys had been killed and deposed, after which a kindly knight called Sir Willem Darry, with 4 loyal men, had broken into the nursery and stolen them both, Viserys and Daenerys, along with her wet nurse, and set sail under cover of darkness for the safety of the cover of darkness for the safety. I'm reading here. The Bravosian coast. This is all verbatim. So that sailed to Bravos, at which point, ostensibly, we're still talking about a time when Daenerys was an infant. And again, hang on a minute. At which point, once finally reaching Bravos, let me read again from the text. Thank God for bookmarks. That was when they lived in Bravos, in the big house with the red door, for a few years, one imagines. Dany had her own room there with a lemon tree outside her window. After Sir Willem had died, the servants had stolen what little money they had left, and soon after they had been put out of the big house. Dany had cried when the red door closed behind them forever. Now, okay, the theory goes, all of this is all one big fat lie. Dany never lived in Bravos, regardless of what they might have told her. Starting from the fact that lemon trees don't grow on Bravos, supposedly, or the fact that this catastrophic storm, the biggest storm in memory of Westeros, is mentioned by no other character in any of the books, and it seems to live in Dany's memory only. I mean, it wrecked the Targaryen fleet, but not Stannis' fleet, and so on, which would make Dany's epithet Stormborn also a lie. Anyway, there's a lot to chew on, dear listener. I'm not going to pursue that rabbit hole. I just wanted to point out that there's a word lie, that George R. R. Martin inserted the word lie right after Red Door. You make of that what you will. But I'm not going to pursue that rabbit hole, that warren, to use the technical term, because I'd rather stay on track. And besides, I think it's time to wrap up this chapter. But yeah, if all of this stuff is new to you and it intrigues you, do go and check out those sources I told you, because it's fascinating stuff. Anyway, the chapter ends with Daenerys and Missandei, holding hands and watching the sunset from this rooftop. The light giving macabre, the sunrise light giving macabre colors to the sand in the fighting pit, and with annoying flies buzzing by. Both details, the fighting pit and the flies, both details possibly foreshadowing something. And first thing in the morning, she summons all of her commanders, Brownben, Plum, Daario, Naharis, Barristan, Selmy, and she goes, do you know what? Given that I'm not much of a ruler right now, because whatever I've done has turned to crap, bloodbaths, people who would rather sell themselves back to slavery and all that stuff. And given that the dragons are still, shall we say, fun size, you know what? I think we're staying right here. You got to imagine the murmurs from the crowd, which always sound the same. Like in that Steve Martin movie. What are they saying? Oh, well, they're saying... I forgot which... Was it the man with two brains? Anyway. So murmurs from the crowd, we're staying right here. Yeah, that's right, we're staying right here. You'll be pleased to know we're spending the rest of the season right here in Meereen. And do what? Why, you will be serving me. That's what you will do. As for me, I will rule. I told you! I still need practice as a ruler. This is still Dany, in case you hadn't figured that out. I still need practice as a ruler, so I'll start with just one city before I move on to a whole continent. Doesn't that make sense? You start with something smaller, and you know what I mean. You just proceed by what do you call it? By degrees, by step, baby steps, and just like that, I couldn't help but wonder: was Daenerys with? Sorry, the Sarah Jessica Parker possessed me for a second. And just like that, Daenerys exits the chapter, as well as the whole book, A Storm of Swords. Wow, what a ride, huh? I guess that if you're listening to these rambling commentaries of mine, like in order, or in whatever order you chose, inverse order, POV, I guess the next time we'll be talking about Daenerys, you and I, dear listener, and what Daenerys does next. It will be from A Dance of Dragons, a book that came out a good 10, 11 years after this one. But you, dear listener, don't have to wait 10 years. Feel free to click away and just go listen to it right now, and you'll find my commentary on that chapter. So feel free to do that or not. Whatever you decide to do, dear listener, it's been a pleasure talking to you. If you made it this far, wow, congratulations. I hope you got something out of it, and you might want to return. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to do all of the things that people do under normal circumstances. And looking forward to speaking to you again. Ciao.